I want to tell you an interesting story that I remember so well. It's almost as if it happened yesterday. But really it happened many years ago, when I was a student at Gallaudet. After my first year, I decided to go home to New York for the summer. I spent the entire month of June looking for a job, and it was such a difficult experience because there were so many young students just like myself who were looking for the same thing. It was very frustrating for me. Each time I would go in for an interview, enter an office, they would take one look at my face and say no, one after the other, that there weren't any openings available at this time. One morning, I read the newspaper and I saw an advertisement for a dishwasher. I thought, well, that's a good summer job. That'd be perfect for me. They need a summer applicant and I'm looking for a summer job. So with that in mind, I was motivated to go and apply. Now, it was in New York City on 42nd Avenue, and I showed up early. I was the first applicant to arrive. So I filled out the application and then waited until they finally called me in for the interview. When I got into the office, there was a man standing there with dark glasses. And it was pretty obvious to me that he must be the boss. So he looked at my application and then started speaking to me. So I decided I probably should explain that I'm deaf. So I did, and he didn't seem to get it at first. So then I explained again, I can't hear. I'm deaf. And he looked at me like he sort of understood and told me to go out the doors, which I did. Opened the door, went through it, followed his instructions. And it wasn't what I was expecting. On the other side of the door, I was in a hallway. And I saw an elevator right in front of me. I realized that I was just dismissed without any kind of explanation or anything. He just showed me the door. So I got in the elevator and I was feeling so depressed as the elevator went down. I didn't understand why he didn't explain anything. I'm a good worker. The advertisement didn't say anything about being a hearing person. When I got out into the street, I saw people walking past, so busy. And I'm feeling awful. I was in a state of shock, kind of walking around, not knowing what to do with myself. And I decided I can't let this man judge me. I can't be helpless all my life. That's not who I am. I don't want to give up. So with that in mind, I decided to let my voice be heard, and I went back into that elevator and started writing furiously until I got back to that office, and I just went right in. I didn't ask anything. I didn't say excuse me, just went right in. And I gave him my piece of paper. He took the paper from me and told me right away to get out, but I said, no, I am not leaving until you read this. So I stood there as he started to read. And all I really explained there was that I'm a good worker, I'm a college student, I need a job for the summer. Washing dishes shouldn't require anything other than 2 arms, which I've got. I can understand, I can write back and forth, I can do whatever's needed. So he had me sit down, and between lip reading and other communication, we were able to have a conversation, a dialogue, and I got the job. Never forgot the first time that I arrived at the summer camp. That's where the job was, in Massachusetts. oh, it was beautiful. There were trees everywhere. It was amazing, and I was so excited to start work. So I got piles and piles of dishes every day, washing dishes. And really, I hated washing dishes, but I have to earn a living, so what am I going to do? So for 1 month straight, I worked like a horse, washing dishes. And one day, my boss comes in and asks for volunteers to help with farm work. There was hay that needed to be stored, and he needed some help with that. So I volunteered because up to this point, I'd been working in the kitchen day in and day out, and I was ready for something a little bit different. So I got up early in the morning. A group of us got up early and started using a pitchfork to pitch the hay inside bales and inside the barn. And there was so much hay, it was being brought up on a lift, and we would pitch the hay inside. Well, as I started working in the morning, I realized pretty quickly that my hands were covered in blisters. And I decided, well, I need to keep working. I don't want to come off the wrong way, so I just suffered in silence. At noon, everyone went into the main house for lunch. I was really tired, so I decided I was going to take my lunch break to rest and take a nap. Well, when I woke up, I realized I was the only one there. Everyone else had went back into the barn to work. I was late. What was I going to do? So I ran as fast as I could. I grabbed my pitchfork, I got to the barn, and I saw my boss standing on the roof, looking down at me, giving me a hard time about being late. I stood there looking at him. My first wish was just to turn around and leave. But then I started thinking, it'd be best if I just tolerate and continue working. So I grabbed my pitchfork and I started pitching the hay, piling it up higher and higher and higher. And we would move it inside to the barn. But then we started realizing that a storm was coming as we saw black clouds start rolling in, and we had to hurry and get the hay moved inside before the rain came. So all of us are just working as fast as we can to get this hay in the barn. Well, the barn also has a little loft that hay can be stored in. The problem is it's up higher, so somebody needs to stand up there while the other ones are down below pitching the hay up towards there. The person standing up on the loft would spread the hay out so that it covered every square inch and was able to be stored. So I was sent up to the loft. And this hay's coming at me faster and faster and faster and blowing all around my face. And I'm trying to move it around as fast as possible, but I'm sneezing and I can't breathe and it's just awful. And I see my boss is kind of enjoying this. So I kept working, but eventually I just did not know if I could stand it for 1 minute longer. I was about to give up. But my boss noticed that and told me that he would switch places with me. So when I got back down to the barn, I could breathe again, I had energy again, and I started pitching that hay as fast as I could. And my boss is having trouble up in the loft now that there's so much hay up there, even having room to stand up there himself because he's spreading this hay as much as possible. So we finally got all the hay up there just as this great big lightning storm was starting. And I went outside and I let the rain wash over me as I laid there for a few minutes with my eyes closed. And I opened my eyes, got up, wiped the water from me, was getting ready to leave when I saw my boss standing on the roof, smoking a cigarette. I went up to him and was surprised when he put his arm on my shoulder. I felt like he was knighting me, finally accepting me into his ranks. I left that day feeling very proud of myself as I walked away from the farm.